Hello and welcome to Byju's Exam Prep IAS. Let's get started and look into our daily quiz. Let's look into the first question. Which of the following statements are correct? OneWeb constellation operates in a Leo polar orbit. They are satellites specifically designed for Earth observation from orbit, similar to spy satellites but intended for non-military uses such as environmental monitoring, meteorology, map making, etc. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is one only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because of the reference in the Indian Express article. So do note what we have is the OneWeb constellation. This happens to be a global communication network that is powered by the constellation of as many as 648 low Earth orbit satellites. So where is it placed? Yes, it is placed in low Earth orbit, and this happens to be a Leo polar orbit. So the first statement is right. When we look at the second statement, they are satellites specifically designed for Earth observation from orbit. This happens to be a wrong statement. Why? That is because this happens to be one of the series of satellites that are built, constructed, placed in the Leo orbit primarily because it has to provide internet services, enable high speed, low latency connectivity for the government, businesses and communities everywhere around the world. So this happens to be a communication company that aims to build broadband satellite internet services. So since the first statement is right, second statement is wrong, the answer to this would be A. The article further makes a mention of LVM-3. What is this LVM-3? This happens to be a lift launch vehicle of ISRO. This is a cost-effective one. It is a three-stage launch vehicle consisting of two solid propellant S-200 strap-ons and core stages comprising of L-110 liquid stage, C-25 cryogenic stage, the equipment bay and the encapsulated assembly. So what is LVM-3? This happens to be a heavy lift launch vehicle of ISRO. Third, it also makes a mention of New Space India Limited. What is this New Space India Limited? This happens to be a public sector undertaking of the Government of India, and it is also the commercial arm of Indian Space Research Organization. When was it established? It was established back in the year 2019 under the administrative control of the Department of Space and the Company Act of 2013. So the main objective of the New Space India Limited is to scale up the private sector participation in India's space program. Now let's look into the next practice question. With respect to capital punishment, which of the following statements are correct? The constitutional validity of death sentence itself has been upheld by the Supreme Court in KM Nanavati versus the state of Maharashtra in 1961. The Law Commission had suggested that the mode of execution should be left to the discretion of the judge, who should hear the convict on the question before passing an order. Which of the statements are correct with respect to the capital punishment? The answer to this is 2 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because of the reference in the Indian Express article. So this article on the Indian Express makes a reference to capital punishment. What is this capital punishment? Capital punishment is nothing but death penalty. So if a person has done something heinous in nature, and if this person cannot be transformed, and it is against the principles of the reformative justice, and even if other modes of punishment are given to this particular person, the victim will not be served the justice. In that particular case, a person will be imposed with what is called as the capital punishment or the death penalty. So death penalty is a form of punishment. Where is it defined? We have it defined in the Indian Penal Code. Apart from the capital punishment, what are the other types of punishments that we have? Apart from the capital punishment, what we also have is the life imprisonment. What is this life imprisonment? This is where the person will be behind the bars for the rest of his life. It is generally assumed that this person will be put behind bars for about 14 years of life. That is not so. Life imprisonment means that this person will be behind the bars for the rest of his life is what is called as life imprisonment. So we have capital punishment, we have life imprisonment, then what we have is rigorous imprisonment, then what we have is simple imprisonment, and a person can also be imposed with fine as well. So when it comes to the capital punishment, there are different modes of execution. What is this different modes of execution? Mode of execution basically means how will this person be killed. as in how will this person be executed by the state agency? Will he be hanged? Will he be fired? Or a chemical lethal injection will be injected to this particular person? How will this person's life be taken off is the mode of execution. So in this particular case, there has been a debate, and this has also occurred recently in the Supreme Court of India. How should be the mode of execution? So in India, the Air Force Act of 1950, the Army Act of 1950, the Navy Act of 1957 provide for an offender to be hanged by neck until to be dead or to suffer death by being shot to the death. So if a person can be fired against him, if a person can be hanged by neck, that is what is called as the mode of execution. When it comes to India, the constitutional validity of the death sentence has been upheld by the Supreme Court in Bachan Singh versus the state of Punjab in 1982, and it is not Nanavati versus the state of Maharashtra. What is the significance of Nanavati versus the state of Maharashtra is what you have to put on the comment section. So the first statement is wrong. When you look into the second statement, yes, the Law Commission did suggest that the mode of execution should be left to the direction or discretion of the judge who should hear the convict on the question before passing an order. The second statement is right. So we have the 187th report in 2003 where the Law Commission had recommended that section 354 of 5 of CRPC should be amended. Yes, this particular mode of execution should be left to the discretion of the judge is what the Law Commission did suggest. What are the other modes of execution? Execution by the firing squad is employed in China. Saudi Arabia uses beheading. In the United States, an intravenous lethal injection is also used. So these are the different modes of execution. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statements with respect to special drawing rights. After the US dollar, renminbi has the largest weightage in determining the value of SDR. SDRs can be held and used by individuals, private entities, member countries, the IMF and certain designated official entities called prescribed holders. The IMF reviews the SDR basket every 5 years or earlier if warranted to ensure that it reflects the relative importance of currencies in the world's trading and financial systems. Which of the statements given above are correct? The answer to this is 3 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because of the reference in the Indian Express article. So this article on the Indian Express makes a reference to IMF, which is why we have taken this practice question. So when we speak about the special drawing rights, this happens to be an international reserve asset. The STR, remember, is not a currency, but it's a value which is based on the basket of 5 currencies. Which are these currencies? One, what we have is US dollar, followed by euro, Chinese renminbi, then what we have is Japanese yen, and finally the British pound sterling. So if we look into the first statement, after the US dollar, renminbi has the largest weightage in determining the value of SDR. This statement is wrong. Why? That is because after US dollar, what we have is euro, then what we have is Chinese yuan, then Japanese yen, then it is British pound. It is the first statement which is wrong. The second statement reads, SDR can be held and used by individual, private entities, member countries, IMF and certain designated official entities. This statement is wrong. Why? That is because individuals and private entities cannot hold the special drawing right. Yes, the IMF members and the IMF itself can hold the SDRs, and the IMF also has the authority to approve other holders such as central banks, multilateral developmental banks, while individuals and private entities cannot hold the SDR. So individuals and private entities cannot hold the SDR, but others like the member countries, IMF and certain designated official entities can hold it. The third statement is right. The IMF reviews the SDR bucket every 5 years or earlier if warranted, and that happens to be the right statement. Now let's look into the next practice question. Privileges of a state legislature are extended to which of the following? Governor, members of the Legislative Assembly, member of the Legislative Council, chairman of the Legislative Council, Advocate General of the state. Select the correct answer using the code given below. The answer to this is 2, 3, 4 and 5 only. Why have we taken this practice question? because of the reference to the governor in the Indian Express article. So when we speak about privileges, what we have are the special rights, immunities and exemptions which are enjoyed by the members of the House. When we say the members of the House, it includes the members of the Legislative Assembly. It also includes the members of the Legislative Council as well. So when we speak about the privileges, they are not given to the governor. So the privileges of the state legislature are extended to the members of the Legislative Assembly, member of the Legislative Council, chairman of the Legislative Council. In fact, the Advocate General of the state also gets the privileges of the state legislature, but this is not accorded to the governor. So remember, when we speak about privileges of state legislature, it is not given to the governor, but it's given to the other four authorities. So the answer to this would be 2, 3, 4 and 5 only. Now let's look into the next practice question. Ogaden region has been a source of conflict between which countries? Morocco and Algeria, Nigeria and Cameroon, Angola and Zambia, Ethiopia and Somalia. The answer to this is Ethiopia and Somalia. This happens to be a previous year question from the year 2008. So this Ogaden region is the region which is between Ethiopia and Somalia, and this was a region of conflict between Somalia and Ethiopia. When was it? It was during the period of 1977 to 1978 over the Ethiopian region of Ogaden. So this is difference and conflict between Ethiopia and Somalia. Now let's look into the fact of the day. The fact of the day for today's discussion is depleted uranium. What is this depleted uranium? Basically, this is the material that is left after most of the highly radioactive form of uranium is removed from the natural uranium. What exactly happens? We have the natural uranium. The natural uranium undergoes the process. Let's say it is used in the nuclear power, or it is used in the nuclear reactors. It is used in the missiles as well. After the uranium is left over, after this entire chemical process is done, that is what is called as depleted uranium. So basically it is uranium, but it has a lower content of the fissile isotype than the natural uranium. So what is depleted uranium? It is that uranium which has undergone the process of being used to make nuclear weapons or nuclear reactor fuel. The leftover uranium is what is called as the depleted uranium. Which countries have depleted uranium munitions? What we have is United States of America, we have United Kingdom, we have Russia, China, France and even Pakistan, which has the depleted uranium. Why are we discussing about it? That is because United Kingdom has decided to provide weapons containing depleted uranium to Ukraine. How does it work? Britain is supplying Ukraine with depleted uranium munition which is used in weapons because it can penetrate tanks and armor more easily due to its density and other physical properties. Let us understand this stage by stage. Depleted uranium shell is fired by the main battle tank. So what we have is, as projectile leaves the gun barrel as shown in the image, the sabot casing falls away, leaving dart-like penetrator. So this happens to be the dart-like penetrator. On hitting a solid object such as the side of the tank, kinetic energy of dense uranium penetrator is released, punching through the armor as shown in the image. Then what we have is the penetrator made of mildly radioactive depleted uranium. Then there is sabot casing, combustible cartridge case as well, stabilizer fins. Then there is propelling charge and electric primer. So this material is about 1.7 times denser than lead and sharpens itself as it moves through the hammer, and depleted uranium is up to 20% more effective than tungsten. So tungsten penetrator tends to form mushroom shape, becoming progressively blunter as it strikes the armor. In order to prevent it, what they make use of is the depleted uranium on the shell, and that is going to pierce the tanks as well. So United Kingdom has currently said that it is ready to send these depleted uranium so that it can be used, and this can be used to hit the enemy. What are the risks of using such weapons? Even though depleted uranium munitions aren't considered the nuclear weapons, experts suggest that such weapons must be used with caution. Why? Because they can also emit low levels of radiation and also cause severe disease as well. Ingesting or inhaling quantities of uranium, even depleted uranium, is also dangerous. It depresses the renal function. It also raises the risk of developing a range of cancer as well. And where have depleted uranium munitions have been used? In the past, depleted uranium munitions have been used in the 1991 Gulf War to destroy T-72 tanks in Iraq. These weapons were also used in the year 1999 when NATO started bombing Yugoslavia, and this was also used in 2003 as well during the invasion period of Iraq. So are these depleted uranium weapons legal? According to United Kingdom Ministry of Defense, it insists that all these depleted uranium shells it is sending to Ukraine are not prohibited by any of the international agreement. It goes on to say that we have Article 36 of the first protocol of 1977, additional to the Geneva Convention of 1949, that UK's depleted uranium shells are capable of being used lawfully in international armed conflict. So remember, what we are speaking about is depleted uranium. And what is this depleted uranium? It is the material that is left after most of the highly radioactive form of uranium-235 is removed from the natural uranium ore. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this topic. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching.